Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, I am absolutely thrilled to share this one with you today. We are going to dive straight into some truly groundbreaking agricultural data from the year 2026. We're looking at a specific Ukrainian hemp variety known as Glesia. And what researchers figured out is that this isn't just a crop. It actually acts as a highly intelligent biological defense system. Literally, it is making synthetic pesticides completely obsolete.
Think about it for a second. For most of the 20th and early 21st centuries, we kind of just fought nature with brute force, right? Spraying toxic chemicals over these widely spaced rows. But what if a field could defend itself without a single drop of pesticide? Well, looking at this 2026 data, we're seeing exactly how nature's 400-million-year-old evolutionary chemistry is rewriting the rules of modern farming. We're actually learning to translate the chemical language of plants.
To really grasp this massive paradigm shift, we'll quickly map out the phenomenon behind Glesia, the DNA-level chemical warfare it uses, its invisible terpene shield, the underground mycorrhizal internet, and finally, what this means for a synthetic-free future in agronomy.
All right, let's kick things off with the Glesia phenomenon itself, the plant that actually fights back.
So, the really crucial point here is that this Ukrainian hemp variety, Glesia, it's actually been known since around 2016 for yielding great fiber and seed. But when its chemical profile was finally fully mapped in 2026, it revealed this shocking secondary identity. Researchers found that it dynamically produces over 140 distinct volatile organic compounds, primarily terpenes. To put that into perspective, that is a dramatically richer, far more complex profile than any standard industrial variety out there. It's essentially a living, breathing biochemical factory.
Which brings us right to the DNA-level chemical warfare, the rapid response system. Let's see how this goes from just a pleasant, passive aroma to an active, genetically triggered weapon.
The sheer speed of this plant's reaction is just mind-blowing. Picture this. An insect, maybe an aphid or a mite, bites the leaf tissue. That breaks the cell membrane, right? Instantly, the plant synthesizes jasmonic acid, which is a stress hormone. That hormone binds to receptors that trigger specific DNA genes, the CTPS terpene synthase genes to be exact, and these genes, they immediately command the plant's trichomes to release a highly customized cocktail of terpenes. This entire molecular fire alarm triggers in under 7 minutes. 7 minutes. The threat is isolated almost instantly.
And the effect this has on the bugs is just absolute chaos. It really proves how brilliant nature is. See, instead of just poisoning the insect, the terpenes act as molecular mimics, literally hormonal weapons. Specific compounds in Glesia like beta-farnesene structurally mimic the insect's own juvenile hormones. It totally tricks their biology. Females get this false signal telling them it's the wrong time to lay eggs. Meanwhile, the males suffer complete neurosensory overload. They can't navigate, they can't find mates, they literally lose their sense of smell. So the bugs aren't just killed, their entire generational cycle gets completely shut down.
Okay, let's zoom out a bit from the single leaf to the entire plant and look at the invisible shield, the terpene canopy.
The data from the 2026 mapping is seriously incredible here. Researchers actually used laser mass spectrometry to measure the protective radius of these fields. And what they found is that within 0 to 50 meters, the concentration of these volatile compounds is over 85% of its maximum. That means total pest disorientation. But even in the 150 to 300 meter range, the concentration is still strong enough to act as an activation signal for neighboring plants. This active radius essentially forms a massive protective bubble, big enough to shield completely different, totally unrelated neighboring crops in the exact same rotation.
To really maximize this effect, agronomists in 2026 figured out they needed to completely change the way they plant. Instead of those wide, traditional rows where the wind just blows all the helpful terpenes away, they started planting in a high-density staggered formation. We're talking up to 120 plants per square meter. This essentially traps those heavy chemical compounds in a highly stable microclimate, and the results speak for themselves. Populations of even synthetic resistant mites and aphids crash by 35% on day 1, 78% by day 3, and a staggering 94% within just a week. The insects simply cannot adapt to a complex, constantly shifting cocktail of 140 different compounds.
But this atmospheric shield, that's really only half the story. To understand the true collective intelligence of this system, we have to look below the surface at the underground internet of mycorrhizal networks.
Because here's the thing, none of this works in dead soil. The plant roots form these deep symbiotic relationships with mycorrhizal fungi, specifically the Glomus genus. These fungi essentially colonize the root system and then branch out, creating a literal underground internet that connects the roots of the entire field into one massive single superorganism.
Let's actually follow the timeline here to see how this builds a collective defense. When a plant on one side of the field gets bitten, it doesn't just release terpenes into the air. It actually shoots a chemical alert, again, like jasmonic acid, down into its roots and straight through that fungal mycelium. So plants dozens of meters away receive this warning signal, and they immediately start pumping out their own protective terpenes 24 to 48 hours before the bug even physically gets there. It is an early warning system that is way faster and infinitely more efficient than anything humans could ever engineer.
But here is the absolute key takeaway. You have to actually nurture the soil to get these results. The source data shows that fields using regenerative practices, things like no-till farming, cover cropping, and compost teas, they saw a massive 42% increase in the expression of those minor terpenes. And why is that? Well, synthesizing 140 different chemicals takes a ton of energy and nutrients. A living, vibrantly healthy soil biome is absolutely required to fuel this kind of biological reactor.
So let's zoom out one last time to the global level and explore the synthetic-free future of agriculture, because this scientific breakthrough is actively rewriting agricultural economics.
We are quite literally witnessing the death of the 20th century farming model. That old way relied on widely spaced rows, which just led to super-fast evaporation of any natural plant defenses, leaving crops totally dependent on heavy, expensive chemical sprays. But what this 2026 data shows is a hard pivot toward a regenerative model. We're talking high-density, stable microclimates, and a collective biochemical barrier. We are finally moving away from fighting nature and moving toward actually utilizing botanical architecture.
And the reason this shift is taking over the industry so fast? It's simple. The bottom line. Consider the profit margins per hectare from central Poland in 2026. Yes, okay, the biomodel requires a bit of an initial investment in soil health up front, but the pesticide costs absolutely plummet, going from 340 euros down to just 45 euros. Total costs are literally cut in half. The end result? This biopesticide model yields a massive 116% increase in net profit, jumping from 1,240 euros to 2,680 euros per hectare. I mean, it's a complete no-brainer for farmers because nature is doing all the heavy lifting and defending the crops for free.
I absolutely love this quote from the source material. The most effective pesticide is not a substance we spray, but an ecosystem we build. Honestly, the ultimate takeaway from our analysis of this 2026 data is that the era of fighting nature with toxic synthetic molecules, it's ending. It was always a really expensive, losing battle against insect resistance anyway. And now, it's being replaced by the sheer elegance of supporting nature's own 400-million-year-old chemical army.
The global biopesticide market is just exploding right now, blowing past $100 billion, and it's being driven by innovations exactly like this Glesia hemp variety. It proves that plants aren't just these passive objects sitting in a field. They are active, highly intelligent defenders of their own ecosystems, which leaves us with one really critical thought to end on today. Are we finally ready to stop spraying toxic chemicals and actually start listening to the chemical language of plants? Let me know what you guys think, and I'll see you in the next explainer.